politics is always going to become corrupt because there's always going to be money involved. And as long as people are people, like human nature exists, like since the beginning of time, there's been people that climb to the top, that are extra hardworking, that work smarter, that kind of have that it factor, right? And then there's people that, most people are just going to be lazy. So because of that, you're always going to have that like divide. It almost seems like inevitable, like no matter what, regardless of whether you get like someone on the left that's a president or someone that's on the right as a president, the person on the right, they're going to potentially help the country become more prosperous. But at what point does policy prevent just great people from rising up and shitty people from falling to the bottom?
That's why I've always stayed out of politics, because for me personally, I couldn't care less about who's in office or whatever sort of, whether it be Democrat, whether it be Republican, whether it be in the middle with the Green Party or independent, whatever the case is. I'm going to get mine regardless. I refuse to let whoever's there dictate of what it is that I'm doing. Now, granted, you have to be privy to many different policies that could affect you, but at the same time, that shouldn't hinder me from trying to get to where it is that I want to go. And personally, in my opinion, and I think we talked about this way earlier in maybe like one of the first 5 episodes, is this, what bothers me the most is it's gotten to a point now where there's no right or left. It's far right or far left. It's like the one side hates the other side so much so to the point where, let's say if it's a Republican who's in office, the people who's on the far left, they want the country to fail just to spite, the right. If it's a left person who's in the office, the people on the far right want the country to fail to spite the left.
Polarized.
Like, we're at the end of the day, and this is primarily, about America, but truly around the world, it should be that way. If you're in a country, you should cheer for the country to prosper because you exist there. You shouldn't be overly petty to where it's like, hey, the politics that I support isn't necessarily winning or at the forefront right now, so I'm gonna be anti my country until I get what I want. Because if that's the case, where are we really going? Yeah, it's fucked up. I think for me, and I know you like to stay out of it, I like to stay out of it too. I think lately, and maybe it's because I'm getting older, I got married, like I just feel like I'm becoming more of a man in that sense. It's almost like a sense of duty. The reason I get a little bit involved now is because it's almost like a sense of duty, because people are getting fucked. Right. And I'm not getting fucked. Like you said, I'm gonna get mine regardless. It doesn't affect me at all. Right. But people are getting fucked based on stuff. So a great example, right now, as the past couple years, country hasn't been doing as well. Right? Inflation's up. Prices of everything are going up. Everything's going up. Let's say a gallon of milk is $10. I don't know how much it is, but I thought about this the other day. I went to a restaurant. I bought some food. Shit came out to like $60. Yeah. Cool, whatever, paid it. Then I got to thinking, and I'm like, man, $60. Most people are making, that's like 4 hours, 5 hours of their work for a meal. Right. And then you go to the grocery store, you see the price of all this shit. It's like, damn, this is expensive. Yeah, I think a couple of months ago, like eggs were like $10 or something like that for people. Like I saw a bunch of people complaining about that. It's getting ridiculous. So policies don't affect me. When I talk about this stuff, it doesn't affect me. I'm rich. I'm in my fucking sky castle. Right. I could afford anything I want. I can get food wherever I want. I can do whatever I want. But for the person that's working the 9-to-5 job, that has to go find a way to go to the grocery store and get food, what are they gonna do? Right. They end up being the ones who get fucked. Yeah. And it almost feels like a sense of duty, because it's like, I feel like it would be selfish for me to sit here and be like, oh, I'm not ignoring whatever's happening in the world, don't care. It doesn't affect me. But now that I'm like, damn, this sucks, poor people. Like I almost feel bad. You almost feel like compelled to like say something or do something. Yeah. So it's a weird push and pull. And what's interesting about it, what you're saying. I stay out of it, but at the same time, it's like, because you want to be able to help. And I'm almost like a bystander. I'm watching people get fucked down there, and I'm kind of like, sucks for you guys down there. Right. And one of the most impactful stories that I experienced when I was walking with what I call him the Unknown Adonis. It's like my brother, but we're not by blood, but we were both each other's first friend. Okay. And we were walking to a Madison Square Garden show. This had to be about like 8 years ago, maybe 8 or 7 years ago. And we're walking in the streets of Manhattan, and he had $21 in singles. So we're going down, and he's very, charitable or whatever the case may be. So as he sees homeless people who are there who just need something, he's giving out the dollar. And then once he makes it to the final person, he's now out of money. And I didn't have any, dollars on me at that point. He just ran out of all of them. And the final person's like, oh man, fuck you. You didn't give me anything. You gave everything to everybody else. And you want to be charitable and give back. But at one point it's like, yo, there's only so much I can give.
Right.
So then when you're watching people who are struggling, now you try to, in our case, trying to give back and educate and try to help people learn different ways. There's just some people who there's nothing you can do. There's some who you can go and help. And then there's moments in which you kind of just got to sit on your hands because you got two hands, one to help yourself, one to help somebody else. There's moments in which you got to be, a bit selfish in order to be selfless.
Right.
So it's a very unfortunate situation because I know exactly, we're right on point with it. It's like, yo, it's getting crazy, but you want to work yourself to a point where it doesn't affect you, but then you can't have your blinders on to not see it's affecting other people. You can't get that out of touch.
It's like almost like you're a bystander and you're watching it. So for me, it's hard to watch, and it sucks more because people don't know, and I hate to say this, but people are dumb. They don't know what's happening to them. They think the world's crumbling around them. They're going to their job, they're going home, they're like, oh my God, it's so expensive. Why is it getting harder to pay rent? They don't realize they're the frog getting cooked. So like, you know how a frog, if you put a frog in a pot and you put them in boiling water, they just jump out.
Right.
But if you put a frog in like regular water and you heat the pot up slowly, eventually it'll boil and the frog will never notice.
Yeah.
So it's kind of what's happening with people. It's like they see they don't know what's happening behind the scenes. People don't understand like economics or finance or politics. So they're going to the 9-to-5 job. They're going home. They're getting cooked in the pot. It's getting harder and harder for them to survive. Bills are getting more and more expensive. It's really fucked up. And I see it, I'm like, damn, there's nothing I can do really.
And I think that's probably, and this is where my conspiracy brain kicks in, why they're pushing so heavily to destroy the family. Because now you just create all of these worker bees. You have all of these people who are incredibly individualistic. You're going to work, you're in the rat race. You think, all right, well, I have all of these material possessions. I'll go and let's just say if I'm making $100,000 a year, I'll move to the state I've always wanted to live in. You live in that big city. Now you get that high-rise apartment. You're paying $4,000 to $6,000 per month. Magnificent. Now, granted, of that $100,000 that you're making, because you don't have a business, you don't access any of the loopholes, that 40% is already out of your account. So now you're really making 60. You take into account, you have to adjust now, your salary because you have to pay for your living expenses. That'll probably run you between 20 to 40, and then you have the remaining money that's there. You're not really up, although the numbers may appear to be so, and you're getting screwed on the back end, but you think this is regular. And because you're so individualistic, you're not compatible with anybody. So then you're moving through life by yourself. You're paying for all of these things. And then by the time you hit your 40s, your 50s or whatever, you haven't worked up the social skills to be able to work with somebody else. You're continuing to expend all of this money that you could have put together with somebody else to make things sustainable. It's just people are in this eternal illusion. And they don't recognize that they're getting screwed.
It's a house of cards, bro. That's what it is. It feels like a house of cards.